Good morning, business owners. It's Mike Bosma, your business savvy CPA, coming to you from Studio B, that's Studio Bosma Business Center. Of course, each and every Saturday morning, we call it 60 minutes of business, or action-packed, rather, this adventure on Bosma and Business. Welcome. If you're a live radio show listener, you're listening either on live streaming at KKOH.com or KOH, AM radio. Yes, it's still alive and well. But most of our listeners now are on our YouTube channel. So welcome, whether or not this is Saturday morning for you or Saturday afternoon or Tuesday, whatever. People get their news, their information, all kinds of different ways. And we're glad to be able to do this one once times weekly. And one of the things we try and do, I guess the genre of the show, is get business owners a little bit smarter, a little bit more savvy about how all this stuff works, maybe a tip or trick or two or 10. And today, no different. Adrienne Wilkerson, CEO and founder of Beacon Media and Marketing and fellow Inc. 5000 award recipient. Adrienne, welcome to Bosma and Business.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here.
So before we, normally we always start out about, tell me about your business, that kind of stuff. Just kind of, put our feet in the water. But last week was the Inc. 5000 where you didn't go.
We didn't go this year.
Do tell. You've been there and done that.
Well, yeah. I mean, we went last year and it was a great experience. Really enjoyed it. Met a lot of other, business leaders and entrepreneurs that are, making things happen. This year, I chose to go on vacation with my husband. So we had an opportunity and I had back-to-back conferences, almost 3 weeks of back-to-back conferences. And so it was kind of a timing thing this year where it's just like, okay, so I think we'd probably go next year again. But this year, like I said, more of a timing thing and an opportunity to take some time off with my hubby.
No, I understand. And well played. Big bonus points in the spousal equation. Of course, I didn't go either, but I got a lot of grief for it, right?
Oh, like, did you?
We're, and we've made it before I've ever been. In fact, it was funny. I'm a member of Entrepreneurs Organization, transferred to San Diego chapter, and they had a dinner for a bunch of new members. So I thought, I'm going to go to San Diego, hang out with my bride for a couple of days instead of go, and whether or not that was a good idea or not will remain to be seen. But, one thing I know to be true is, I spent some time on the Inc. 5000 list. There's not a lot of companies either from Alaska or Nevada, and you're kind of in both. So tell us about your business.
Yeah. So I started doing this back in 2001 was when I founded my first business. And then it was graphic design, website company. We did a lot of branding work. It was a lot of fun. We specialized a lot in small businesses. And then, about 8 or 9 years in, I realized, Facebook had taken over for MySpace and this social media thing was not going away. It was just like the internet, 10 years before. Had the same conversation with business owners. Do I really have to have a website? Is this internet thing really not going away? And I'm like, it's not going away.
Stay, correct.
It's going to stay. Yeah. So then I was watching the next kind of wave of that was social and realizing this was going to change marketing as we knew it. And in Alaska, we're kind of behind about 18 months to 2 years on anything, unless maybe it's oil technology. Right. It's just, we're a little remote, little removed. So in some ways that gave us some advantages because we could kind of see what was happening in the rest of the United States, continental United States, lower 48, and kind of see, what trends were playing which direction. And I just realized everything was going to change. And so I was trying to decide whether to keep my graphic design business or lean into web or shut it down completely and go a different direction. Because it was like, it's changing. It's changing. It's changing. And do I want to change with it or do I want to pivot? And I ended up meeting a lady named Jennifer Christensen. She was doing social media marketing and was one of the only people in Alaska I knew of at that time that was also seeing what was coming and that this was a foundational shift in what was considered advertising at the time was going to go away. So we ended up merging businesses in 2012 and launched the first digital marketing agency in Alaska at the time.
Okay.
So it's been a wild ride. So we've been kind of from the very beginning of the whole social media marketing, digital marketing, inbound marketing, whatever term you want to use. We've kind of been in it since its infancy. So we focus primarily on small businesses in Alaska. And then 2017, 2018 started expanding outside of Alaska and taking on clients outside of that kind of remote sort of world. And I moved out of the state as we were starting to grow and expand. And then in 2019, we decided to niche down in mental and behavioral health. So that was kind of another big shift for us, which ended up being very fortuitous because COVID hit and mental health became the hot topic,
And
right?
telehealth, right,
Oh,
specifically,
yeah.
became a thing. Because before you're going to go to your doctor, whether it's your psychologist, psychiatrist, whoever, your shrink,
Right.
right? You're going to go to their office and have an
hmm
in-person meeting because everything was in
Absolutely.
person. Then just like this, for years, I've been doing this show for 14 years.
Right.
Up until a month and a half ago, every week I'd go to the KOH studio.
Yep.
We'd record, right? Audio
Sure.
only. And I thought, there might be a bigger thing. Now I'm probably the latest adopter there is on this technology. It's ahead of the curve on everything else. But
Yeah.
but COVID was a game changer to say, oh, now
Mhm.
telehealth became
Right.
mainstream instead of kind of like, what do
Right.
you do? You got to call your doctor. How are they going to see? How you get all this stuff, right?
Right. Oh, yeah.
And then your marketing firm said, and I think I like the term niche down. I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, because every business owner, we're all guilty of it. I think we had a little technical bugaboo trying to get this thing going.
Yeah.
Technology is great unless it doesn't.
Mhm.
And as we're talking about that, you're like, you used to run IT for your own business. I did the same. I remember when I started originally 2007, Bosma Group CPAs, left the top 5 CPA firm for, over a decade.
Right. Yeah.
I'm going to serve all these small and medium-sized businesses. I'm putting the desk together after hours.
Oh,
I
yes.
go to the Office
Doing the
Depot or
painting,
Home
right?
right? It's it. I'm on it, right?
Yep.
I'm not going to pay somebody to do that. I don't have a job anymore. I don't have a paycheck.
Right. Sweat equity is where it's at.
Sweat equity. That's why. But then you take everybody because you don't know, right? You're kind of that maybe that poverty mindset. Might be one way to look at it is like I need a young, and then you accept a bunch of clients, and then you go through, and then what I counsel people on is when they start, especially a professional services firm, you really got to know what pricing is because most people, a lot of people, they make the mistake. They undercharge for what they do
Right.
because they're
Oh, yeah.
desperate. I need work.
Oh, yeah.
And then over time, then you have to start, well, now I have to charge this what the market is. I can't give it for
Yeah.
free anymore.
Yeah.
And then people are like, oh, well, I hired you because you're the cheapest. You're like, well, we're the best. So, but then when
Right.
you niche down and you said, hey, we're just going to press into this mental
Mhm.
health space. What,
Yeah.
obviously it was COVID, but what made you choose that niche? Because that's, picking where you're going to live, that's a big decision.
It is a huge decision. And you're right. We would counsel so many clients to niche down and then
Right.
realize we weren't doing it ourselves. We weren't even doing what we preached.
The
It's
cobbler's
like,
shoes.
yes, exactly. So it's like, okay, we need to really do this. And we had kind of called our niche small business, especially once we started expanding all over the country. It's like, this is too broad, small, medium
Right.
business. You might as well say we help everybody, which is
Right.
nobody, kind of a thing. So my father's actually a therapist. He just retired this year after 30 years of running his own practice in Alaska. So that was one of my first professional jobs is working reception. And so he had a medical and counseling component. So they, two independent businesses, but they worked together. The idea was trying to provide care for the whole person. It may not always be just a mental health issue. There could be thyroid issues, hormone issues that are affecting it that also need to get taken care of. And so it was a really cool, very unique concept in Alaska at that time to combine those two. So it was a really neat, I would say entrepreneurialism is in my blood. My grandmother started the first art gallery in Alaska in Anchorage. I've got entrepreneurs all over my family. It's great. So between that and just the experience that I had working in the mental health field, and kind of understanding the back end of how it works. I understand medical billing. I had to do all of it. I did medical billing, the workers' comp pay documentation. Oh my God. Thankful I never have to do that again. So it was a really nice thing to be able to talk to therapists, owners of practices and go, we get it. We understand what you're going through on a day-to-day level in your business. So let us partner with you. Let us own the marketing piece so you don't have to stress about that part.
Now, and there's, for the benefit of our listeners, marketing, branding, sales, I've used interchangeably. Where do you see yourself fit in that? Are you doing lead gen or are you just brand, or not just, or branding or both?
Right. We do primarily brand awareness and lead gen. We do
Okay.
a lot of branding that plays into the brand awareness, name awareness. You kind of need both of them when you're looking at digital marketing. You can do just one or the other. We have clients that do that. Usually our clients that are just doing branding, they're full. They don't have space for more clients yet, but they're recruiting new practitioners. So they need to keep the brand awareness out there so that when they do have that practitioner come in, they can turn the lead gen back on and fill that person up. So some of our clients, it's kind of the branding is almost the consistent piece that doesn't change, and they might turn the lead gen on or off. Can be a little sketchy, but that's really, we do primarily both.
Okay. Well, and that's where, as we're talking to Adrienne Wilkerson, CEO of Beacon Media and Marketing, I guess, we're just talking, we're just having a conversation. It's over coffee, right? Just talking. And that's where it's like when you decide to venture out, you're like, okay, we're going to, but then in your own marketing and branding effort, how do you decide where to concentrate? I guess, that's always like, because again, if you're a small, medium-sized consultant, you're like, no, we're going to niche down, mental health. But then you're like, now where do we focus? So where are the patients at?
Yeah.
That'll tell you where the providers are.
Well, and it's interesting because for ourselves, we're doing business to business marketing, but for 95% of our clients, we're doing business to consumer marketing. So it's an interesting kind of combination. The way we market for ourselves is a little different than what we do for most of our clients in the tone, if you will. Right. So, I mean, at the end of the day, business to business marketing is still connecting to people, whatever you want to call it. It's still, the messaging might be slightly different, but you're still connecting. So for us, you were talking about as businesses grow and evolve, you have to start charging more. You have to, it gets in some ways more complex, not necessarily in a bad way, but it can be. So for us, as we started growing, we've got about 25 people now spread out from literally Alaska to North Carolina. So, it was part of it as we started bringing on more specialists to be able to niche down in digital marketing. One of the things that we ran into is that we had to raise our prices because we had a more overhead now as we're bringing in more experts. So that made us really reevaluate our ideal client. And so we've had to evolve that many times over the years. Right. And it's one of the most challenging things I think we have to do in business is to recognize what got us here is not what's going to get us there.
Actually, and what you just said was genius, Adrienne. It's like what got us here isn't going to get us there because that involves your entire business model. Sometimes it involves a team. When we come back, Adrienne Wilkerson from Beacon Branding and Marketing is going to talk about how she identified exactly where she needed to pivot to. You heard it here and only here. It's Bosma on Business.
In life, things aren't scripted.
If you're an athlete, we need people like you and translate those skills to officiating.
You can get a lot out of it.
It happens in every town, in every game.
We never have a perfect game, but the rewards always outweigh the negativities.
Welcome back to Bosma on Business. Your host, Mike Bosma, on Teams, on Zoom, on the internet, I guess. Adrienne Wilkerson, CEO, chief cook, and no longer bottle washer of Beacon Media and Marketing. Yeah, no, I completely, we were talking on the first break. Just go back if you're on the radio, just, get this on kqh.com or my YouTube channel, either one, Bosma on Business. You want to press into that first segment if you missed it. And talking about all the things you have to do as a brand new business owner, as you're trying to scale up. What's funny, Adrienne, is everybody, they do their own books to start. I don't know. Did you?
Oh, yeah. I did our own books for a very long time. Yep.
So just,
and
I learned QuickBooks.
Not my forte.
I get it, right? I learned I can make this work. It's all good. And then, and it's funny is the nice thing, like I mentioned earlier, I'm a member of Entrepreneurs Organization, business owners, over $1 million in revenue. What's interesting is when you start, kind of swimming with other, bigger fish and bigger ponds, you start to say, oh, this is how the rest of the world does it. They're not doing their own IT. They outsource everything, and then they focus in on what they're uniquely good at, and they carve off everything else. Even if it costs money, even if you make less money, you're better off from a business perspective because, as Vern Harnish, who wrote Scaling Up, the
Scaling Up.
Rockefeller Habits, would say, right? You get to a plateau, like usually it's between 10, 15 people. If you want to scale beyond it, you're going to have to invest in a whole lot of infrastructure, right? And you're going to make a lot less money and need a lot of capital or rapid growth or the combination of the two to be able to get there. So you're at 25 people, so you're through that. Now, is Jennifer still a business partner?
No, she actually transitioned out this summer.
Okay.
So she wanted to focus primarily on Alaska small businesses in the faith-based sector and nonprofit sector. So those were sectors we did a lot with at the very beginning, but to your point, as we evolved and grew, we kind of focused on different niches. And so she realized that's really where her heart's at. So yeah, transitions are never easy. Definitely one of the more positive ones that we've done. We have transitioned out multiple partners through the years, but not a co-founder. So that was,
right.
It's different. But she's doing what she loves now, and I'm really excited for her.
Well, no, and that's it, right? I mean, as life evolves, or even as it continues, you're just. I know myself. You want what's best for people, whether it's with you or somebody else. You just want what's better. You find your unique gifting, and God bless you. Just live in that space, and life is good for everybody.
Absolutely.
Trying to make a square peg fit around a hole. You're just
it doesn't work for anybody. Yeah.
It doesn't work for anybody. So sometimes let's find a way to part ways. So it sounds like that went well for you. But kind of going back to your dad, right?
Yeah.
Did he shut his practice down or did he sell it?
He passed it on to his right-hand guy. And so, he had a guy that had been mentoring with him, essentially was, like I said, his right-hand guy, his chief operating officer for many years. And so they spent quite a lot of time recruiting. His guy wasn't sure if he really wanted to take it over or not. And after they'd done a lot of recruiting, they kind of came back to him and he's like, no, I think I want to do this. So he had a really good heart for the vision because it's still a nonprofit, for-profit hybrid. There's about 10 nonprofits that all operate under their umbrella now. So it's grown a lot in the last 30 years. So it's a very unique beast that they've created here. So, so I'm really excited to see what they do.
Well, and the reason, of course, it always piques my interest is Keystone, we have Keystone CPAs and Keystone Business Brokers and Keystone Wealth Advisors, kind of all three under one umbrella. And so I was, look, now I've done like 80 transactions the last almost 5 years. Like once you see it, you can't unsee it. So I'm like, I wonder how Pops pulled that one off. And selling to an internal buyer, all right? That one, we've got 2 of those we're doing right now. And that's a sticky wicket. Because they're your employee and they've been your employee for a long time. And then they start asking all these questions about what about this, blah, 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 and it creates angst. And so I have a podiatry practice, talking about medicine. I have a podiatry practice in Philadelphia. They've been a client for 30 years. The doctors in that practice, they have had a love-hate relationship with each other for 30 years.
Oh,
right?
no.
And I flew back to Philly a couple of years ago and to start to facilitate this transition. Some founders going to retire, give it to the younger docs. Here we go. This is how it's all going to work. And what do you think their objection was?
Money, probably. Almost always is.
Why do I have to pay you all millions of dollars for the business that I create? It's like, you didn't create it. He created it. And you own percentage of it. He owns but it's worth something to me. Right. And they're like, well, why do I have to pay for that? I could just take all the clients. And then all of a sudden now you're at war. And so, whenever I used to, the little nugget there, I thought I'd just spin up on is if you're looking at selling to an internal buyer, you're a business owner, and you're thinking, I'm going to sell it to my number 2 or my group of people, whatever it is. I highly recommend you have somebody represent the buyer and the seller that's not you.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like your dad was very fortunate, although it didn't go there to begin with. Like, okay, we're just going to have to sell it to somebody else. We'll bring in somebody else. That didn't work because it's a very unique business model, maybe a one-on-one.
Yeah.
And so this guy already understands it. So, but now you've got to coach him up to like, okay, what's it mean to run a business? So, and it's funny because like I'm selling an automobile shop garage, and the number 2 guy, he's worked for 18 years. I have this meeting. It's funny. To get your perspective on it. I said, there's 2 things that's going to happen when if you decide to buy this business. Number 1, you're going to have more money you've ever had, and you just got to acclimate to it.
Right.
Because, you're living hand to mouth, right? And now you're going to have tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars, but you have all these loans that you have to repay. So it's not your money. You got to what do you do? And then you're also going to find out everything is way more expensive than you ever thought it. Ever thought it could be. Why does this cost so much, right? And I'll just, give me get your tax return done. How is that? Go to the H&R Block. I got a W-2. There's nothing. Now I'm paying thousands of dollars to tax. Whether we do it, sometimes we don't care.
Right.
But it's just you have to acclimate to it. Like you've been doing it, sounds like for a minute, right? But you're like, yeah, stuff's expensive. Stuff, this is how it works. And sometimes the same thing when people are upgrading into you and they're like, oh, okay, well, what we're doing, maybe they're running their own social media, their own branding. Well, I can do this. I mean, I could chat GPT it, but they're not getting the results they want. They're like, now we need to hire a professional. So they reach out to you. So, and that being said, how does your pricing structure work? How did you come up with, okay, is it, fee for service or just retainer?
Yeah. So we basically, we've got an hourly rate for things that go out of scope or one-off little things. But for the most part, we sat down and figured out, okay, how much time should it take a person who's an expert in this to do this particular job? How long should it take them every week, every month to be able to post on social regularly, create those quality posts, create that quality graphics so that we're actually getting engagement in it, producing something for the client, right? Not just likes, not just views. It's got to actually lead to something real.
Right. Somebody has to pick up the phone or express if there's a call to action, they're going to act on it and the phone rings, or at least there's an indication that somebody's interested. Well,
and when we were first getting started, there was nobody really out there doing it. As far as digital marketing agency wise, it was so new. Literally HubSpot had just coined the term inbound marketing the year we launched our, merged businesses. So it was the Wild West back then when we were doing it. And so we were trying to do more of a project-based retainer model than the traditional advertising agency model of hourly rates like an attorney kind of a thing. And especially for small businesses, because that was a big issue with small businesses that they're like, I have only got so much money. And if I can't budget every month for a consistent amount, this is going to kill me,
Right.
And then they're afraid to call you as their marketer to tell you about something because they don't have the budget.
They don't want to pay.
If you're going to charge them an extra 5 hours because they picked up the phone. So we sat down and tried to figure out, okay, so what is it going to take to do this the right way? And based on that, we're like, okay, so here's a flat fee. So if you're going to hire us to do social media marketing, we're going to charge you a flat fee every month to do that. And here's the deliverables you're going to get for that. And so that's really how it started off. The interesting thing that's happening with AI right now is it's shifting massively our industry again.
Actually, let's do this because we're on a hard break, bottom of the hour.
Okay.
AI is impacting everything, especially marketing. I got Adrienne Wilkerson from Beacon Media and Marketing. When we come back, she's going to talk about how it's impacting her marketing agency, how it's going to impact you as well. You've heard it here and only here. It's Bosma on Business.
What if you had some money waiting for you at the IRS? Money you could use to fix up the house, tune up the car, get a little something for the family, or save for a rainy day. If you worked and didn't make much money last year, find out about the Earned Income Tax Credit at irs.gov. It makes life a little easier.
Welcome back to Bosma Business. Your host, Mike Bosma. Bottom of the hour, I always give a little tax tidbit, talking to Adrienne Wilkerson from Beacon Media and Marketing. And we'll get into this in a second, but I want to be able to talk about a pricing model first. But the tax tidbit I would tell you is you're thinking about hiring people across the great United States, having clients across the great United States. You might be filing many state tax returns across the United States. And it's just, you have to get your mind around it. You have to plan for it. So like Keystone CPAs, for example, we have employees in 13 states. Oh, we have clients in 50 states. Sometimes you don't have that client activity doesn't rise to a level of having nexus or taxable presence, and you want to just be mindful of it. So just ask your CPA. I'm doing business in multiple states. Print me out a nexus matrix and how much activity can I have in state before I'm taxable, so that you can make informed hiring and client onboarding decisions. Because it could be, maybe that one client is going to push you over that revenue threshold. You're like, well, I don't know if it's worth it because there's not enough margin in it. So again, if they subscribe to the right software, they can do that in in a pretty easy way. It's not going to cost a lot of money. It's like, give me the Nexus matrix is what it's called. If you need some, all you got to do is put a note in the chat. I'll send it to you for free. It's a Nexus matrix. It says this is the minimum level activity before you have to file a state tax return. Like I said, hit me or DM me. We'll send that over to you. No charge. It says just because as long as you subscribe, then you'll get the Nexus matrix. That's how that works. All right. Subscribes are everything, Adrienne. Evidently.
Absolutely.
All right. So I was curious because we were talking before the break about, you have this kind of retainer-based model. Everything's about scope. This is what's in. This is what's not in. I get it. But now what's AI doing? I mean, because this is fascinating. This is talking about the wild, wild west.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's changing like every minute now. What's going on in AI in your world?
Yeah. So now it's shifting our matrix away from kind of retainer-based business model because it's not transactional anymore. AI can do so much of the transactional part of it. But the problem with that so many of our clients run into or our prospects run into, and this is why they call us, is that they're not getting the quality out of AI that they were getting. So we've had clients when AI first came out with a large language models could write their blogs for them. But we had quite a few clients who are like, okay, we're canceling our blogging services. We can, ChatGPT can do this for us.
Right.
And then we get a call back a month later and they're like, all of our web numbers have tanked. Our SEO is terrible. We're not getting form fills. We're not getting leads. What the heck happened? And we're like, you only get out of AI what you put into it. And this is the hard part that a lot of people find out the hard way because the ChatGPT is going to spit out a blog, but that doesn't mean it's SEO optimized unless you know how to prompt it to be able to be SEO optimized. So it's really all shifting to your understanding of marketing and your strategic perspective and how good that strategy is. And does that strategy then integrate into all your other marketing? Is your SEO that you're putting in and asking ChatGPT to generate blogs that are SEO optimized or content that's SEO optimized? Does that also integrate into what you're doing on social, what you're doing in paid ads? Does it all play together? Because if it doesn't, you're wasting your money to some degree or another. And so there's so many ways that you can optimize it to make your marketing dollar go so much farther. But if you're not experienced as marketers, that's really hard to find out where that is. I mean, it's taken a decade or more of trial and error to figure that out, right?
Well, I'll give you an example. So, part of our firm it's called tax controversy. We defend IRS audits mostly for other CPAs clients. Right? So we have some subject matter experts, and so when all of a sudden they get it's happened, true story. Somebody in Detroit, Michigan, the IRS went to their home or taped a summons to their front door with duct tape. So when they pulled the summons off, it ripped the paint off the door, right? Saying you must appear Tuesday at 9 o'clock at the IRS Center in Detroit, Michigan.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Like what? He's like, oh my, what? I was like, oh my gosh, right? This is like, what did I do? What's going on? Like the work, right? It was terrible. It was the worst on it, but that's where he's like, he got referred into me by a CPA. Hey, call Keystone, they'll shut all this down. We shut it down. But most people don't know that. Most CPAs don't know that, right?
Right.
But one of these IRS auditors, it's fascinating, right? So they use, I'm sure, I guarantee they use ChatGPT because it is not in the Internal Revenue Code. And they said, well, basically blow up this structure, blow up this deduction. Came back with the thing, and I won't bore you with the details, won't nerd out on you, but pre-contribution gain. This is why it doesn't work. And then put that in the denial of the deduction, send it to my client. We're writing the response, the rebuttal, no big deal. But then they put it into deep ChatGPT and they're like, oh, we have a problem. They're like, well, it's only as good as your prompt.
Yes, it is.
Your output. You said this, Adrienne, it's like the output is only as good as your prompt. And you have to be a trained professional and know how to prompt it right. And so,
and not only that, but to catch the errors. I mean, they call them hallucinations, but they're like freaking lies. They give you the wrong data.
They make this stuff up. So, right. And so that's where I'm like, oh my God. So the IRS and then my freaked out client, right? And I just said, I couldn't sleep at 4:30 in the morning. I see this and I'm like, it's because that's just, he's like, this is millions of dollars. And so he's like, I'm understandably freaked. And I'm like, nope, here, this is how this works. Here is the exact example. says you're fine. He goes, oh my
Yeah.
goodness, thank you. Right.
Right.
But that's where, I think that's the future, like posts or, I think AI is going to be part of our future for forever, but it's just going
Right.
to where you have this deep understanding of all of these other things. And then you use the tool
Right.
to be able to get the product you need to accomplish the
Mhm.
results, but you're not going to be able to do that alone, right? Not at any
No.
sophisticated, real, working level. And
No.
that's going to game the system, right? If you're able to
Absolutely.
accomplish those things, right? Yeah, the world's your oyster. Like, and that's where, because what I thought you were going to say on AI is I'm seeing now a lot of lead gen using AI. Like, so
Oh, yeah.
how are you using AI for lead gen for your customers?
We're very carefully using AI for lead gen. And the reason I say that is because there are so many hallucinations. There's so much inaccuracy in the data. And our primary target market is the mental and behavioral health. And so we're dealing with a ton of HIPAA issues, a ton of, personal health information, PHI type stuff. And so the whole industry is scrambling to catch up with how do we leverage the data that AI can mine, which is scary.
Which is scary. It's a lot.
Very scary. How do we manage that data and use it responsibly for lead generation while still respecting HIPAA and PHI? And so that is one of the specialties I would say for us is that's a really big deal for us. And we spend a lot of time in that space. And that's why mental and behavioral health are pretty much our only, about 90%, 80 to 90% of our clients are in that space because it is so intricate and there's so much. Again, there's very little laws, very little regulation. They come out with a law, AI evolves, that law is obsolete. So we're really taking the very most cautious approach that we can. So yes, we're using data that AI generates. We're using it a ton for research, but we're being very careful in how we use AI to go out and connect with people because AI does not have a human element to it. It has no empathy.
It's right. It has no empathy, right? So, but it's interesting. So, we actually had I call them the AI twins, and if you want, I'll make that connection for you. But this is what they're doing in marketing ish. They don't have a marketing company, but they kind of do. But what they do, what the example they gave me, which was I just thought genius, was so they could triangulate based on web searches where people are looking. In their case, the example they used was real estate, commercial real estate specifically,
Right?
And so they said. And then they created a way using basically a blog or a newsletter or a white label data portal for when people are, so that, if you're looking, pick a zip code. So if you're looking for commercial real estate in Reno, that all of a sudden, they would basically write this white paper that would be the top of the list when you Googled it. And then you're going, oh, okay, it's not a brand. It just goes in there like, this is everything there's to know about real estate 89511. And then the pop-up says, hey, would you be interested in getting everything that's for sale in the zip code? Well, and they did that all through AI, but then they would then market that to commercial real estate agents who say, do you want, this is how many people? And he showed me the database. I mean, it was mind-blowing because you can focus it and they said, we all started with what people are Googling to, and actually what's going to be the next generation of that is going to be, what are they chat GPTing? Right?
Oh, yeah.
And then this is how you're going to come up to the top of those results. And then basically building out these lists. So these, like a commercial real estate deal, average fees on a commercial real estate deal, $30,000-$40,000, right? So nice, very robust. So they're getting paid thousands of dollars for each lead they pass to these agents.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because they're qualified, they're already pre-qualified, all the rest of they have this huge everybody's winning. And so that way, all of a sudden, it's actually changing. I think the market was Las Vegas. It was changed all of a sudden that, these agents that went from obscurity, right? In terms of deals closed. And then how are you closing all the deals? Where'd all the deals go?
Right.
They're changing the land. And so that's why I was thinking like in mental health, I was like, if you were able to triangulate that based on geography or if it's telehealth, whatever those terms are, you're like, hey, I can create, what was that Adam Sandler movie? Anger Management.
Oh yeah, that was a good one.
Right. So if you chat GPT or Google, how do I get treatment for anger management? Then you create the white paper, and everybody that's looking is probably, qualified to be your client. Then all of a sudden you get these clusters of clients like, well, hey, mental health professional. I have 10, actually, I think like they had over 100,000 people on the list. It was amazing.
See, the hard part is we can't do that. That is a HIPAA violation because that means somebody has now associated their diagnosis or a potential, that's personal health information.
Right.
They've now associated that with an IP address because that's how they're tracking what zip code or whatnot you come from. Right.
Okay.
So now they've put out legislation, and this is, some states are more sticky than others on it, but this is what's going on in our side in the mental behavioral health, and a lot of marketing agencies don't know that's
just blow right through it. Right. They're like, oh, that's right.
And so then our client could get hit with a HIPAA lawsuit, and so could
that's
we.
A problem.
And that's huge, right? So we have to be like 10 times more careful, even with our targeting with paid ads and all this kind of stuff, because people overshare. They start sharing all kinds of stuff.
I can't know. Please don't tell me.
Right. Exactly. We
please
don't
tell me. I can't know.
Yeah. So what these guys are doing with that is brilliant. And there are a lot, like plumbers can take advantage of that.
Plumbers, right.
Oh man, roofing there is so much potential there, but we can't quite do that the same way.
But isn't that fascinating? Then I know we have to go to the next segment, where really the thing that's going to help people the most, you can't do because it's a violation of their air quotes privacy, even if they give you the information. The best, the road to perdition is paved with good intentions. Anyway, so Adrienne Wilkerson, when we come back, she's going to tell us the number one thing she wished she would have known before she got into this business thing. When we come back, it's Bosma on Business.
I was born with a congenital heart defect and almost died. But thanks to research funded by the American Heart Association, I had heart surgery that saved my life. Learn more at helpheart.org.
Welcome back to Bosma on Business. Your host, Mike Bosma, in her studio. Figure out how to transition that one. In her studio, Adrienne Wilkerson, former fellow 5,000 winner and founder of Beacon Media and Marketing. Adrienne, we leave our listeners with this number one thing. This is like probably my favorite part of the show, because it was like always I think, what do I wish I knew before I got into this thing? Like I could have course corrected it had I only known. What do you think? What do you wish you knew before you jumped into these entrepreneurial waters?
Yeah, I think there's two things that stand out to me. First one is trust your gut. I wish I had trusted my gut more. A lot of times I doubted myself because I'm just like, who am I? I'm just this person trying to put things together and make it all work. And so there were many times that, I was like, oh no, this makes more sense, or so-and-so told me this, and so I should do that. And, there were times it just didn't sit right with me, but hey, they're the ones with the college education in this, not me. And so I would default, and not to say they were all wrong. Many of them were right, but there was many times that if I had trusted my gut, I think that it was my business. I knew what the vision was. I knew what I was trying to accomplish. And I didn't always take their advice and fit it into my world. There were times I just took their advice, but they didn't have the same vision for what I was trying to accomplish. And they were coming in with their own perspective. And so instead of integrating that, there were times where I would just be like, okay, well, they're right, and pivot. And it was disastrous multiple times, and so then putting the pieces back. So I think taking people's advice, filtering it through my gut, for lack of a better term, is something I wish I had learned earlier on, for sure.
Yeah. In the context, I remember I had a friend, he used to be a really, really good friend. And of course, I'm buying and selling businesses every day. And he's struggling to kind of get out of doing everything. And it's just buy another business. Just buy another business. Now, whether he didn't hire me because he's a tightwad. He won't spend $1 on anything ever. So he does everything himself. What does he do? He goes out, reaches out to a couple other people and finds, hey, let's merge. So they merge. Next time I talk to him, oh yeah, here, I'm now part of it. Instead of a 3-person thing, I'm now part of a 15-person thing. And I'm like, well, are you guys aligned? Do you have a buy sell? What happens if this doesn't? And it was terrible. He ended up getting forced out. He ended up signing a non-compete, right? It was, and I'm like, these are all, that's why I earned my fee and my brother, right? And now he's like, well, what the advice you gave me ruined me. And I'm like, I don't know that that's fair.
Right.
You took it way out of context, and then you didn't say, okay, what does this all mean to me? And that's what's important.
Yeah.
How's this going to impact my day to day? What do I have to be working on? Okay, all those things that you pay a professional for, instead of advice you get. I call it at the fire pit over a glass of wine. So you're like, oh, no, just press into it, right? And before you
Right.
change the course of your entire life.
Yeah. Yeah, fair enough.
Because some context is
Context is everything. Yeah. And it's got to be within the context of what you're trying to accomplish with your business, because a lot of times they don't know your business like you do, kind of a thing. So, yeah, I think that was a big one looking back. I'm like, there were definitely some times that I didn't get enough context or just took it as a blanket thing and ran with it. And so
I'll give you an example of that. Sorry to interrupt you, but so I'm just curious. So now, do you have partners or are you the sole owner?
I do have one partner. Yes.
Okay. So do you run the business as a partnership, S Corp, or C Corp?
We are in partnership LLC, but we're taxed as an S Corp.
Okay. So and I'll just press into that. Then we're running out of time. But I'll tell you, you have a partner, great, and maybe one partner has one. I want to own a Land Rover one day, or Range Rover, whatever it is. The other person drives a Honda Civic. How do you equalize that based on ownership, right? So that's a problem, right? Well, when an S Corp is, and so actually just wrote a memo to split it into two, so you operate as a partnership, and then have each one have their own S Corps. Yeah, you have to file 2 extra tax returns, but then you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
But if you want to go crazy on taxes, it doesn't impact the business, right? You're just going to get your allocated income. We're done. Then you figure it. You save the self-employment tax. But I'm telling you, it's like I've saved so many businesses from imploding over fighting about tax deductions and who's over aggressive versus under and all of it, right? So anyway, but everybody tells you your professional services, be an S Corp. Until you have a partner, then you wish you would. And that's because it's nuanced. There's a little context. Does this matter to you? Anyway.
Yeah.
Adrienne,
Well, we started off as a partnership and moved to an S Corp, and it's worked for us, but we've got a lot of alignment on some of those topics, and that's not as common.
And that's awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, and that's where in the context of selling a business, I would like to keep all those expenses out because I don't have to justify the add back. Anyway.
That makes sense.
Adrienne, thank you so much for sharing your journey. Congratulations on hitting the Inc. 5000. Hopefully we'll cross paths again next year. Okay.
Likewise,
and then make sure, just ask your CPA that you're doing this pass-through entity election for all the state taxes you're paying, PTE, because that will help you deduct all those federal taxes. It matters. Speaking of mattering, next week, this will be a fun one. Tom Ahlquist, president of Ahlquist Developers. If you're familiar with any large casinos, Harris Casino, one of the largest casinos in all of Northern Nevada, he's renovating this thing into something that's not a hotel casino, about all the perils and potential of this huge project, the way it's going to change the landscape of downtown Reno. Of course, if you need to get any of these podcasts, go to either my YouTube channel, which you probably are on, my Bosma on Business, or KQH.com. Until next week, my business brothers, my sisters, my comrades in arms, keep that business engine humming. We call it Bosma on Business.